Hey guys, how's it going? Fine Thai Cuisine here, and today I would like to do a deck profile video on the Aya Lisa deck from Bane Dream. With the upcoming release of Bane Dream Girls One Party Volume 2, there has been an increasing interest in this deck. I've been getting some inquiries and some questions about it, so I figure I just kind of want to make a video about it to kind of spread the knowledge about how this deck works. So let's get into it. So as the name implies, the deck is based around the level 3 Aya from Ghost Band Party Volume 1 and then level 3 Lisa from Volume 2. And then we also have the toilet, which is fairly crucial to how this works. So how this combo works is the Lisa has on attack, you can pay 1 and discard a Roselia character to burn 1. And then she has on play, you can top check up to 3 and add 1. She also has an experience ability, but we don't run her experience requirement in the deck, so essentially she's just going to be 8,000 power base all the time. The level 3 Aya, I'm going to assume most people know what the Volume 2 or the Volume 1 cards do, but I'll quickly go over them just to make sure we're all on the same page. The 3-2 Aya is also on play. You can top check 3, add up to 1, and then on attack, this activates up to once per turn. On attack, you can pay 2, discard 2 if you have a green and yellow character on the board. And if you do, you can stand one of your blue characters. So, originally when Set 1 came out, or Volume 1 came out, the only viable restand for Pastel for this card was the 2-1 Hina that kills level 3s, or the 3-2 Hina. Pastel never really got that good blue finisher to abuse the Aya restand mechanic. And in Volume 2, they still don't have one. Pastel doesn't. In terms of a good blue finisher, they received yellow finishers instead, and kind of like this red Aya bomb. But what they did get is level 3 Lisa, which probably wasn't meant to be played with the Aya, but you know, Bane Dream has such a diverse and unique card pool that we can kind of make it work. So we also have Toilet here as part of the main group of cards, because the Irritating Girl says, choose up to one of your music characters in your waiting room and put it into stock, and then choose one of your characters and they get the following ability until the end of the turn. When this card attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character, add it to your hand. Now notice that it doesn't say once per turn. So it's basically put it on the Lisa, and whenever she attacks, you can trigger the Irritating Girl and then reveal the top card of your deck and add it to hand. That's kind of how we get to maintain hand, even though we're discarding so much hand during this combo. So basically, it's a make your own Marika. Marika 3-2 from Japanese Nisekoi on attack burn 1 and then can restand to on attack burn 1 again. Except in this deck, you're going for this setup, which is attack with Lisa, burn 1, attack. Attack with Aya, restand Lisa. Lisa attacks, burn 1 again, attack. And then Aya restands Lisa again. So the damage output in this deck is really strong, and you have really good damage numbers, especially if you can attack a level 1 or a level 2, and then you get to control your damage numbers by siding afterwards. So let's quickly go into the core of the build. Now there's several options or ways in how you can build this, but here is really what I found to be the best, and this is the core of the deck. Okay, so we're utilizing the shell that came out in Volume 2, which primarily focuses on the Maya level 1, which changes into the level 2 Maya. As the Climax combo, when this Maya reverses your battle opponent, you can top check up to 4 and then add up to 2 Pastel characters and then discard the rest. This is how we're going to be basically gaining resources and preserving our resources. The Maya gets really big if you have a full board setup. Just like in Volume 1, the Pastel deck, early game, really relies on having 4 colors. If you lose one of the colors, basically everything falls apart. So, but if you do have the 4 colors, this Maya, behind the Volume 1 Maya, which gives 1,000 to front, is a base 10k on defense, which is nothing to laugh at, right? It's very big. The Shisato here is our Brainstormer instead of the Eve Brainstormer from Set 1, just because we need blue. You might notice that we still need 4 colors, therefore, we still need to find the correct back row. Now, Maya is still going to be our green back row, and Chisato Brainstormer is going to be our blue back row. Since our attackers are yellow, we can't play the Eve anymore from set 1, so we'll have to make with this. And then we're going to need a red character. So that usually comes in the form of 1-0 Aya, or if your runner lived at level 0, the level 0 Aya runner. Alternatively, you can try things like 1-0 Chisato from Volume 1, which is the 7000 beater. But essentially, this is going to be the configuration you're working with. You want ideally 2 Mayas on the board, and then your back row is always going to be these 2, and then you want some red character. So you can kind of tell at a glance that the deck doesn't have a lot of space to work with. Let me just quickly lay out the rest of the deck here, now that we've gone over the core cards. And because you need so many things to make your level 1 game work, the deck kind of builds itself to a certain extent. You identify what cards you need to make the Maya work, and then you fill in the gaps with what you need for your level 3 combo. And then after all that's said and done, you really only have 3 to 4, maybe 5 slots left for flex, but honestly, it's not even that flexible, so. Here's our level 3s. Okay, so at level 0, we have 16 zeros, basically just four of everything. The way I built this deck, the current build I have, is kind of designed to just maximize on the cards I do want to see, and kind of lower the more techie cards. So I used to have some other kind of tech in here, like level 2 killer, free fresh counter, some cool Roselia / Pastel combos in the level 0 Hina and the level 2 Sayo. But eventually I just cut all those out for more consistency and just following the main game plan. Kind of the pro and con of this deck is that it is a one-trick pony. You're always going through with one game plan. Level 0, accumulate your resources, look for multiple copies of the 1-0 Maya and the 2-1 Maya, ideally either in your hand or in your waiting room so that your salvage Chisato Brainstorm can salvage her. Because the level 1 game requires so much in hand, any card that you run that's kind of on the more techie side, like level 2 counters, it's just dead weight. You can't really afford to hold on to them, so all you're going to be doing is clocking them. That's also the reason why you want to run high counts of all the cards early game that you want to see. So 4 of everything here, and 4 of everything here, 4 of the level 2 combo. So a common question that I do get is the number of Roselia cards. If you might notice, there aren't that many. There's only the 3 level 3 Lisas and the 3 Yukina counters. Now, you might wonder, since the Lisa needs to discard a Roselia every time it attacks for the burner one, isn't this too little? And the answer after playtesting is actually no, it's not. It's actually very easy. One of the easiest things to do in the deck is to get enough Roselias in your hand. The reason being, 1, you run 8 gates. So every time you trigger a gate, you're going to be salvaging 3-2 Aya, or 3-2 Lisa, 1-0 Yukina. It's basically free, right? So you have that time until level 3 to set up, and once you do get into level 3, every single one of your level 3s top checks 3, and that's 1. So that's also more chances to get more Roselia in your hand. But the icing on the cake is the combination of the fact that you're attacking 5 times, Lisa attacking 3 times, Aya attacking twice, and you're putting the toilet on the Lisa, means that if your toilet isn't revealing a character, it's going to be triggering a gate most likely, unless you reveal one of these 4 events. So every time you attack and you go through your deck, and then you trigger a gate, that's just an automatic Roselia. And you ever really only need 3 Roselia, so it's really easy to get. Another question I get about this deck is, why not some other combos that takes less deck slots? I just went through how building this deck requires so many deck slots to be effective. So why not something that's less committal, like Fever Kasumi from Volume 2, 1-0 Yukina trial deck combo, so on and so forth, like Christmas Kasumi? The answer is, while they can generate you advantage during your combo turn, for example, you can just tri-field them, go to full hand, no problem. The problem with those cards is you're going to be needing a consistent board to fight with, right? Even after level 1, you're going to be needing to hand fix a lot for your level 3 game, because you do need a lot of pieces in your hand once you get to level 3. Okay? Because these finishers are top check 3, add 1 instead of draw 2, discard 1, you can ever only add one of the cards you look at into your hand, which means that you already need to have a pretty decent hand going into level 3, because you can't just randomly draw 2 cards you need and discard 1 card you don't need. Okay, so that's one of the reasons. The second reason is that, in conjunction with that, the Maya is 10k base at level 1, and it's a level 2 character, which can't be reversed by typical level 1 bombs. So if you get the setup online, Maya is going to live for several turns, most likely, at least until they get to play the early play level 2s. And that's really important, because every single turn that Maya lives is a +1 for you, not only in terms of hand you don't need to commit, but also stock. Your level 3 combo takes a lot of stock to go off if you want to do the whole combo. If you want to attack with Lisa 3 times and burn every single time she attacks, alongside the 2 restands, that's a total of 9 stock. 8 if you count the toilet at the start of your turn. So 9 stock is actually not that easy to get. But this early game kind of helps that problem. If your Mayas live longer, that means you don't have to dedicate as many cards. You don't have to brainstorm as much. If they don't kill your Mayas and you're at 6 to 7 hand, all you have to do is play a character and attack. You don't need to do anything. Okay? So yeah, that's the main reason why we don't want to run the other level 1 combos, because you have to replace them. You have to spend resources replacing those cards. So I want to go over some pros and cons of the deck. The pros: you don't need to reverse the level 3. None of the level 3s need to have any sort of interaction with your opponent's board. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, you can have the option of siding your opponent's level 1 or 2s, but still, you don't need to reverse anything. If the Lisa's weaker, it doesn't matter. She still gets to restand from the Aya and then just get run over again, but you're still doing damage, right? So it doesn't need to reverse at level 3. It's fairly uninteractive in that sense. It also has the very strong early game with the walls. Like I said again, you probably won't even be contested by most other decks at level 1. You won't even need to use the counters. Of course, the counters are there, so you can counter up to 12k, but generally speaking, once they're up, they're there. Another pro, the damage numbers are good. You're not swinging for 4s and 5s unless you're directing with the Lisa. You're swinging for 3s, 4s. If you side, that's like a 2, and then you can swing for a 2 again. And then in between those attacks, you have trickles of 1, 1, and 1. But most of all, I think the biggest pro of this deck is that it's pretty unique, and in my opinion, it's pretty fun. I have a lot of fun piloting this deck, even though it is very straightforward. It is a breath of fresh air, so to say, compared to a lot of other decks. This style is pretty fun, and knowing that you're piling up resources all game, you're trying to fix your hand, and then at level 3 you kind of just go off and then your opponent's most likely dead. It's a good feeling. But I don't want to go over the pros without the cons, of which there are many. Con number 1, I mentioned earlier, this deck takes a lot of stock. 9 stock is nothing to laugh at, but you can, one of the things about this deck is you can combo without 9 stock. There are actually quite a lot of opportunities for you to do multiple instances of damage even at numbers such as 8 stock, 7 stock, 6 stock, 5 stock, so on and so forth. For example, at 8 stock, all you really lose is 1 Lisa burn. At 7 stock, you still get the restands, or you can have a choice of like a restand and like all the burns, so on and so forth. Because the stock payout is so non-committal, you can kind of go with the flow, and if you have to go in that turn without 9 stock, you still can, and you won't feel like absolutely awful about it. But the full combo does take a lot of stock. The second main weakness of this deck is that it's weak to rest counters, it's weak to money counters. If your Lisa gets moneyed, you're really sad. If your Lisa gets memory kicked, you're really sad. So against any deck that has these kinds of tools, you're going to have to prepare your board in advance to try to combat that. And if you can't, you just kind of have to admit that you have a bad matchup, right? In those cases, you will probably want to go for 2 Lisas and 1 Aya over 2 Ayas and 1 Lisa, just so they can completely deny all of your attacks. But there is no stopping your opponent's defensive options if they have any. Now, you might think, doesn't Bane Dream have that 2-1 Saya that tap 2 characters? If you have an event in waiting room, you can choose one of your characters, and during that card's battle, your opponent can't use events or backups. Yes, but it just doesn't fit. Because the 2-1 Saya is red, and for your Lisa Aya combo to work, you need all 4 colors on the board. Your endgame board is going to look something like this. Your back row really doesn't help, I guess is the right word. Your back row is just kind of there to fulfill color, because remember, the Aya does need a green and yellow character to restand. So oftentimes you're going to be playing an Aya in your back row, or if you have a 2-1 Maya living still, you're going to be moving the 2-1 Maya to the back row just to fulfill color. Now you might notice there's no room for 2-1 Saya to be on the board. If you wanted to go with 2-1 Saya, you would have to play 2-1 Saya, tap 2 characters, and then play over her. And unfortunately, that's not really realistic in this deck, given that you do need to prepare so many things in order for your level 3 game to go properly. So, while it is a possible tech option, I've personally decided that it's not worth it, and you just take the L against those certain matchups with tap counters, with money counters, with memory kick. The last thing I want to talk about regarding this deck's weak points is that it's really, really, really bad if you fall behind. Like, I cannot express how awful it feels if you fall behind in damage. If you reach level 3, maybe like 3-2, 3-3, and your opponent is early level 2, you basically... You're in a really tough spot, right? Because what likely happens is, if they rush you down to early level 3 and you're not ready yet, even though damage numbers and damage output on your level 3 combo is really good, it's not going to be enough to kill them from early level 2. Let's face it. Even mid level 2 to late level 2, it's still not guaranteed. Most likely, they're going to be compressed enough so that they can still live even from like 2.5 to 2.6. So you don't want to count on it. That's kind of why I run 1 healer. I used to run no healers, but a friend of mine convinced me that I should run at least 1. I know some other people that build this deck, I like to run more than 1. Like 2 or 3, they run like a 3-2 Saya early play healer, or more Hinas, or 3-2 Ron. Oh, those are definitely options. But I feel like the way this deck goes is, if you lose level 1, you just lose. And it's a very snowbally deck. If you lose level 1, you lose the game. If you win level 1, you're most likely good. And it's kind of futile to play the comeback game with this deck. It's just not something the deck is very capable of doing, even if you adjust the tech cards. So I've personally decided that, again, sometimes it's just going to take the L when those situations happen. So those are the pros and cons. Personally, I think this deck is probably not one of the best decks in Bane Dream. It has too many weaknesses, and especially as more and more people figure out how the deck works, because it might seem scary at first, just on paper, right? If you look at their level 1 board, they have a bunch of 2/1 Mayas. You can't kill them with level 1 generally, and then you can't get your on-reverse combos on those 2 lanes. Your level 3 game is super deadly, and for the most part, doesn't need to reverse anything. But if you really go into the deck and play it yourself, you'll realize that there's a lot of things that the deck has trouble with. If you don't have a good level 0 game, you're in trouble. If you don't have a level 1 game, you basically lose. And then if you get soul rushed, if you don't have enough time to build up stock and resources, and then you get hit to level 3 quick, then that's basically a 99% loss as well. Play it out, obviously, it is wise, but in my experience, this deck really has no comeback mechanic. But we don't play Weiss to always play top tier decks, right? This deck is super fun to play, super fun to pilot, very unique, and most importantly, uses Lisa. And if you know me even remotely well, you'll know that I love Lisa, and one of the reasons why I first wanted to try experimenting with this deck when the Japanese Volume 2 came out was because I wanted to use the Lisa in any way possible. Obviously, there's the Roselia build, which also uses the Lisa quite well with the 3/2 Rinko, for example, or just as a standalone attacker that also digs. But previously, I had a Pastel deck. Pastel was my favorite Volume 1 band deck, so I wanted to mix my favorite elements. I always knew the 3/2 Aya had potential to be busted if they printed a good blue card to restand, and turns out they actually did. So I want to keep this video to a manageable length. Tell me what you guys think. Hit me up with some comments. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments on YouTube, or people that know me on Facebook can message me on Facebook. I can go over any other things that I didn't go over in this video. More options you can try, or kind of how the deck flows. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.